I'm Michelle and this is my Woolly Wumpkins channel. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and then you won't miss any of my woolly adventures. If you saw my last video, you'd know that I set myself a challenge. I took this basket, which was full of balls of wool, leftover pieces of yarn from past projects, literally full, overflowing. And I emptied it out and made a rough plan of the projects that I was going to make from the yarn. Determined to empty the basket and get a fresh start to a new year with my knitting and my crochet. So as you can see, it's pretty empty. All that's left in there are things that I need, like my little lights. Let me stick these on in case you haven't seen these before. So you put these on for when the family's watching a movie or something, or on a winter's evening. You can still do your knitting then, or your crochet. Use them for other things, but that's what I use them for. So they're in there, as are some knitting needles and bags. I like to keep these type of bags in to section off my different projects. As I said last time, I was going to keep this yarn for a project. That's going to be something involving fair oil, and I've kept this because the next of my friends or family that has a baby boy, I'm going to make some little mittens and booties out of it, or booties I should say. It's not enough for both. Yeah, so I'll have my magazines and patterns such as this one, my Clutch Me Close Cowl. Let's get it on the front page so you can see. Oh. And this is in there because I was using this for one of the projects I'm going to show you in a moment. Speaking of projects, let's show you what I made from the basket. I keep looking over there because that's where I used to have to look when I was filming, but I have to look here. I hope I'll get used to it. Right then, let's pop this down there. So the first project that we said we were going to try to finish within our 3-week lockdown, which, as you all know, has gone on a bit longer than 3 weeks now, but my deadline fitted. I got it done in time. Was the heritage shawl that I'd started on my colourway called What the Heart Wants It Gets, and I just wanted lots of different reds. So I'm going to bring this up closer so you can see the different reds. Now this is going to be both a personal project, and I'll use it as a sample or as an example of my heritage shawl, knit on a smaller needle. This is knit on a 4mm needle, whereas the one that you usually see at the shows is knit on a 5.5 or 5.5mm. Because I wanted it to go around my neck here for when we're out and about. With coronavirus now, with the mask on and everything, it helps keep the mask in place. But you will remember, or if you haven't seen it before, have a look at my other heritage shawl, and on any of my formats, Ravelry, my website, my Instagram, videos here on YouTube, and you'll see the other one is a much more lacy version. This I wanted to keep a bit of warmth. Although in this light you can see through it there on the camera, it's actually very, very warm. They're both very warm, but this is, you know, it's toasty. Okay, so I'm pleased with that. I do like how all the reds have knitted up. So keep an eye out for that if you see me at the shows. So I'm just going to fold this one up. Start as we mean to go on, putting things away properly. People do ask how to store these, so I tend to, if it's a triangle shawl, just continue the triangle, and then in the drawer that I have them in, I'll lay one like that, and then the other one like that. On some of them, I've got a box that I also use I do it smaller again there. But again, trying to keep to the square pattern. Alright then, so, no, I nearly went to put that back in the basket then. I'm going to put that there, because that is finished. Hey! So, realistically, I would have been pleased to finish just that in 3 weeks. But I did get some more done. What was next, I said? I said I was going to make that Cut Me Close cowl, didn't I? So this was made out of some slubby yarn that I no longer stock. I dyed it to match the colourway of my poncho that I will be wearing at Wonderwool. And I deliberately made it wider than the pattern calls for, because I've got the poncho that you'll see in my other videos, and that the neck on that is quite close, but I do tend to get cold shoulders. So I wanted something that I could put over it, still have the neck of the poncho showing and looking beautiful, but I could also then pop this over my shoulders for the added warmth should I need it. That's only for when it's super, super cold there, because anyone that's been there on a really cold day knows you could have thermal astronaut suits and you'd still be cold there. So this is the cowl. Just 1 minute while I just squish myself up. So I really like this. Can you see there how the colours have knit up? And I love the stitch detail and definition. I'm really pleased with that. So there we go. So square thing, rectangle things we fold as close to a square as possible, and then I would put that on top of 2 small triangle shawls in my storage area. What was next? Let me have a little think. The wrist warmers. Now remember my son-in-law, he bought me those straight needles back in the summer. Well, using the last of the hand spun and hand dyed fibre and yarn that I made my poncho with. Now we're down to the actual final part. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I'm not going to throw it away because so much effort went into spinning and dyeing this. I will keep that for something. Oh, I did mean to say, with the shawl that I just showed you, I kept this much back. I'll show you why in a minute. So I'm going to put that, well, see it to remember. Okay, sorry, I digress. So here are the flat knit hand warmers. Pop them on so you can see. Now I've put a pattern to this, very simple pattern. I've put it on my blog, and there's also a YouTube video here on my Woolly Wumpkins channel to show you how to make these. It's not a very good angle of it. Twist myself around. So they knit flat and then seamed up here. So the gusset is knit on the end of the knitting. If you're wondering what I'm talking about there, have a look at my other video and all will be explained. So I'm going to pop them both on to show you what I've done. So I've given myself a really lovely long finger rib there so that I can keep myself warm, or if I need to use my hands to pass yarn to people, or to to just talk with my gestures, I can. And if it gets a bit warmer, I can also do this. There we are. So I'm quite pleased with these because they were made out of some yarn that I didn't think I had enough to do anything with. But it was only the fact that I had spun the yarn myself that forced me really to make a pattern to fit the amount of yarn that I had. So pleased there again. Another project finished out of my basket of leftovers. So we pop that over there. The next one, was I had a ball of my merino double knit yarn. In fact, I still have this much left. So these, as you can see, these balls are getting smaller and smaller. I made a hat for a baby. Let's get in close there so you can see that. It's a lovely crochet hat with the sideways rib and then just a crochet crown. And this, I don't know, yeah, let's have a, if I do that, yeah, you can see the definition of the stitches there. And you can see that it's quite a firm fabric, but it's really, really, really soft. So whichever of my, well, it would fit my grandson now. I think I probably will end up giving it to him. But if it doesn't fit him, then whoever has the next grandchild can have that. Because if you recall from the video prior to this one, the other portion of this yarn made the first hat and mittens that my first grandson, I say first grandson, I only got one grandson, I only got one grandchild. But what I mean is, for me, your knitters, your crocheters, your first anything is special. And with each child, your first is going to be special, isn't it? Your second is special for a different reason. Anyway, I'm going to get myself into trouble now if my children are watching this. They'll be, oh, it's the most special one. So I'll stop. But yes, that pattern, I've just loosely described this on my blog because anybody that can crochet can work out how to do this. Okay, with a little help. Literally anybody that can crochet can make it. Okay, so that's the next project. Marvellous. So then we had do you remember I showed you all the acrylics? All the greens and greys, and that they didn't really like my fire when it comes to inspiration. But how surprised was I when I decided to put 4 strands together. I used that giant crochet hook that I showed you. So look, it's in a basket. For those of you who haven't seen the other video, this crochet hook, it's a big one. Oh. So I used this with 4 strands of double knit acrylic yarn, and each time the ball of, because each ball was a different amount, different weight left, like some were full balls, some were half balls, some were just quarter balls. Every time we come to the end of one ball, then I would just tie on a colour, a ball of the same colour family. So when the dark grey ran out, I didn't have any more dark grey, so I went to the light grey, and the same with the green as well, and the blues. So I'm really surprised at this because I don't know if this will come across well on camera, but I really, really like it. Can you see? It just works so well. It's almost like a fade. Lighter in the middle and then out to you don't see under my arm there, do you? Out to darker on the edges. So I would really recommend that if you've got some colours that you think are awful lingering in your unloved basket, put them together, see what comes out. Because that was definitely worth it, in my opinion. It's lovely and what has been on my legs, and now I want to put it back because it's so warm. But that's just your basic granny square, and just crocheting loosely. So if you've never used a giant hook like that before, don't be scared of it. It is more like the yarn, you don't just have it wrapped around your fingers, you have to hold the yarns together and you go in more like like this rather than delicately with your hook. But give it a try. You might be surprised with what comes out. and you'd definitely be warm, because I was lovely and warm as I was making this, to the point that it made me consider buying a load of acrylic in the sales and making hundreds of these blankets. But I resisted because I've got so much planned for this year with my own yarn. But you'll find out in my next book one video. Let me just check if we got any more projects. Now, one that, as you know, I challenged myself to learn Continental Knitting. And to do that, I thought I'd make a pair of socks, 2 at a time. So I started that back last year, but then had terrible thing after terrible thing happen in my family life, which distracted me. I just could not knit. Anyway, I picked it up, forgot that I was teaching myself how to work with Continental Knitting. So this is my Continental Knitting, and then this is the same pattern using English or British throw-in technique. But either technique, they've given me a lovely pair of socks. And because I knit them both at the same time, on the same needle, they're both the same size. So I'm pleased with that. I must be molting because my hair is all over these things. Right then. Yeah, so that pattern can be found on my Ravelry page. It can also be found in the earlier videos of this. I'll probably I'll stick it on here so that you can have a look at it yourself. But yeah, I enjoyed making those in the end. I enjoyed it before all the nonsense happened, and I enjoyed it after, once my brain came back into my head. Okay, anything else? Oh, I know, there's something we forgot. Now, this yarn, before I go on to that yarn, there's another thing I forgot. These socks, quite possibly, will be the last pair of socks I ever hand knit myself. Because, as you know, my joints hurt anyway. But I'm not getting any better with that as I get older. So I've ordered myself a lovely circular sock knitting machine. So I thought the yarn that's left over from these socks will be my first ever pair of hand crank socks on the machine when it comes. It's being made to order, so I think we got another month yet before that's due to arrive. But that's why I kept some of this back, because I wanted to make the toes and the heels, or possibly just the heels, in this as a contrast. We'll see what happens when that comes. I am looking forward to that. What else? You can see I'm sentimental with my knitting. I like my last and my first, and then with the knitting of the first grandbaby's hat and then the next grandbaby's from the same ball. I don't know where I get that from. But I've got it, so there we are. Make the most of it. Last but not least was this yarn. Now, as you can see, in last month's video, I did say I was going to make a blanket with it, which I started to do, and I thought, oh, this yarn's just too nice to just make a granny square blanket out of. So I started to make a jumper for my grandson. This is how it would be. That's the neck. Yeah. But you know what? With coronavirus, I haven't been able to see him in the flesh. Well, probably I could count on both hands how many times I've been able to see him in real life. So I haven't been able to measure him properly either. And it turns out, not only do I make giants, but so does my daughter-in-law. Because as you know, my sons are both over 6 foot and my daughter's are tall as well. So my grandson, he's like the size of a 1.5-year-old, and he's only 8 months old, living. Nearly 9 months old. So I'm not going to make that jumper now. It probably will be a blanket, but I want to make it more of a pretty blanket. So I thought I'm not going to rush that just yet. if the lockdown goes on, my plan is if the lockdown goes on, there's talk of it going on till March, so if it does, then that will be my back burner project to be finished by March. And that's it. Challenge. Even though I've got this little bit left, just this one project left, I feel that that's been a really successful challenge, because it's cleared up so many like loose ends in my own head where I would be thinking of, oh, I'll make this for that, and no, I can't because I've got to finish the cowl. I haven't even started the cowl. I haven't even wound the yarn for the cowl. But that's all done now. It's all done, and that's really freed up my mind to plan what's coming. So if you haven't subscribed, I suggest you do, because the best is yet to come. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.